Alhamdulillah, everything is great. Apart from, well, obviously the whole Corona situation in the world. But apart from that, Alhamdulillah, personally, things are
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
How are things with you? By the way, may I say that I absolutely love
Alhamdulillah.
your glasses.
Oh, thank you very much. They look
Yeah.
they look similar to yours, so but in a
Yes,
different
yes, I feel
color.
like it's very similar, just different colors. Great minds buy
Exactly.
glasses alike.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes, yes.
Exactly, exactly. Alhamdulillah. Um, of
Alhamdulillah.
course, first of all, we are very honored and happy to have you with us. I think that's from everyone at Ahlalbait. We're very honored to have you with us, and I think we have a very beautiful subject today, which we will talk about. But I think before we jump in, the very big subject of today, but very interesting subject of today, I think many people probably know you from Instagram or from Facebook. But I think if you can give us like a small introduction about yourself, what's your background, what kind of work did you do, and did you also have some challenges in this pandemic period?
I see. Yeah, thank you so much. So I am Javad Shomali. I have so I was here in the UK till my college years, but then I went to Qom to study in the Hose. So I did almost 10 years in the Hose of Qom. Became what they call an awesome sheikh. And so after almost 10 years in Hose in Qom, then I came to the UK again and joined University of Cambridge. I did my MPhil in Middle Eastern Studies and then a PhD, which just recently was completed, Alhamdulillah. And right now, most of my time is
Alhamdulillah.
actually researching on the links between psychology and spirituality. So, yeah, so that's a short introduction to
Short
me.
intro.
Yes,
Short but powerful. Let's keep
Alhamdulillah.
it like that. It's very good.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah. I think, inshallah, like the topic, as many people I think who followed us have seen, is like we're going to talk, inshallah, about how to have a really good relationship. What is a good relationship that we can have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how can we keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala satisfied? I think also during this pandemic, this past year, many of us had a lot of free time. So we had a lot of time to think about our life, about our relationships with our family, with our colleagues, but even our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So probably we also have thought about, okay, do I have a good relationship with Allah, or can it be better? So I think before we even can start with what is a good relationship, I would love to ask you, the question is like, which many of us, I think also a lot of youth think about, is like, what are the benefits for me in having a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what can it help me during my daily struggles and in my life in the West, or not even in the West?
yes, sure. So I think I'm very happy with the way you phrase that question, that what can I gain from a relationship with God? Because unfortunately, a lot of the times when they teach us about religion is that pray because God said so. If you don't pray, God gets upset. Fast because God said so. Give charity because God said so. And they make it sound as if we're doing God a favor. And even though we know that's not true, but it makes it feel like this whole religion business, this whole spirituality thing, is just a burden that we have to do. And I'm very happy that now a lot of people are actually starting to realize that no, we are the one who benefit from religion. We are the one who benefit from spirituality. But then the question becomes this, that uh, because I believe, unfortunately, of course, this is that as and this is not just us. I mean, a lot of religious communities are going through that. We have failed to show people how religion is beneficial for them, how spirituality is beneficial for them. We've got a lot of great teachings, we've got a lot of great sources, but from the great sources to people on this way, it seems like a lot of things are lost. And by the time these teachings get to people, they don't have the power to change our lives. So even if now I come and tell people, you know what? Prayer is actually for your own benefit. Fasting is for your own benefit. All of Quran. People, even if in my face they don't say anything, inside their heart they're like, is it really? Because I don't feel much change in my life. So that is one of the problems we have, and which, of course, with every problem comes an opportunity. Then it's an opportunity for us to delve more into this and see how are these things beneficial for us. Because my understanding is that there is nothing in religion which at the end of the day wasn't designed for our own benefit. Everything, I believe, is there to help us, make our life easier, help us grow. And so the challenge right now for us is to see how this works. Like, how is prayer meant to help me? Because yeah, I know someone says it does, but is it really? Is Quran really changing my life? So inshallah, it would be interesting to talk about that tonight. But I guess, yes, as you said, at the end of the day, spirituality is our way of finding what's the best way to live. And by what's the best way to live, I mean, what is the way in which my habits, my fears, my self-doubt, my fears don't stop me from being who I want to be. My pain, my past, my trauma, my mistakes. Because we all have a lot of things around us that even when we want to make a change in our life, they don't allow us. It could be our habits, it could be the patterns we've created, it could be the self-doubt, it could be the fear, the pain, the people in our life that we don't know how to deal with. And so these things, I believe, keep us at a certain type of life, certain level of life, in which we're just going day to day, trying to avoid anxieties, trying to do things to feel a little bit better, and we seem to be stuck with little wiggle room. It's like the anxieties keep coming, worries keep coming, fears keep coming, and all we can do is to just do things to push them a little bit further. Or to, sometimes we even let go of things we love or the dreams we had, because we think that going there is scary, or there are anxieties that are triggered when we go towards it. So we keep, like, making this comfort zone for ourselves, and everything we do simply becomes to just, let me not go through so much pain. And obviously, because life is difficult, anxiety is difficult, pain is difficult, and slowly we get to this place where we are no longer living for ourselves or for growth or spirituality. We are living just in a way that we would feel less anxious and more of what we call happiness. So for example, if I am renting a house and every month I have to talk to my landlord, the person who owns the house, and that is stressful for me, all my goal in life becomes what? Let me become so rich that I own a house, that I don't have to go through the struggle of talking to a landlord. So slowly, all our wishes and desires become, how can I avoid this stress that I'm feeling right now? And obviously, the more we go that way, the further we go from the things we actually want. So, having said all of that, I believe spirituality is the way for us not to be in the bondage of these fears, of these anxieties, of these pain, of even our addictions that limit us in a small kind of life, in a comfort zone, helps us break free and live the kind of life that we really wish to have. And then as a result of that, we find ourselves, we have time to think about God, because before that, God is just a word in our mind. It's not real. So that's why I think spirituality is very important. It's our key out of this prison.
So if I understand it well, you can correct me. So actually what you're saying is like we live in it's like a journey to to the hereafter. It's the journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a life with a lot of struggles, a lot of pain, and the beneficial point of having like a relationship with Allah is that you can deal with these struggles. That you can, like, these struggles, what we mostly, if you don't have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what it can lead to is that you actually push away pain, struggles, just far away from you. But when you have a good relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're much stronger to deal with them. Is that
yes.
what
Yes, of course. And of course, it's not just a relationship with God, but it's also a relationship with ourselves. So it's like we find ourselves, and through that God as well. But yes, definitely, of course, what you said. And another thing I would just add, that it's not just that it would help us live this life easier, it would actually help us live, because this journey back to God that we have, it is guaranteed that we're going back. But when we get home is not guaranteed. So it could be longer and shorter. So it's also that the journey will be easier and also faster. So it's both at the same time.
So it's also very beautiful. You say also, like, you get to know more yourself, and I think
yes.
this concept of knowing yourself, this concept of knowing as in Arabic, the ma'rifah, it's a very important aspect, which also in religion is like something which a lot of scholars also talk about, that you should have ma'rifah. Not just ma'rifah of your, like, knowing of your God, but also the knowing of yourself. I think there's a very beautiful, famous saying of Amir al-Mu'mineen, where he actually says, "Man arafa nafsah faqad arafa rabbah." He who truly knows himself knows the Lord, knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you can tell us a bit more, what does actually Amir al-Mu'mineen mean here with knowing yourself, and how can I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by knowing myself? I think for many people this maybe sounds a bit weird.
Yes. I think that's one of the most important, I think, sayings we have in Islamic spirituality. Man arafa nafsah faqad arafa rabbah. A lot of our urafa, a lot of our scholars have books on this, poems on this, and it's actually very similar to it. We also have in the Quran that God says the people who forgot God, and as a result of that they forgot themselves. So this idea that the knowledge of us and God is very connected, the knowledge of us and God, this is very interesting. We have it in our hadith, and we also have it in the Quran, that if you forget God, you'll forget yourself. If you know yourself, you know God. Now, unfortunately, again, this is one of those things that we haven't done justice to. What does it mean to know ourselves? Right? I guess that's everyone's question, because I know I'm Javad Shomali. This like, I'm getting really old, and my hair is starting to get white. I've got the same glasses as this amazing brother here. But okay, is this what we mean by self-knowledge, or is it more? Now, I think this is an area in which there's so much we can talk about. There's so much work we need to do, and it's one of the most interesting, I believe, parts of our spiritual journey. Because, in spiritual journey, one of the aspects of it, stages of it, which people usually have in mind or talk about, is the initial stage. That in Islam we call it yaqdh, or the awakening. When you wake up to this realization that there's more to this world, you're not just your body, wow, there's meaning in this world. And so this is the part, they call it like the honeymoon phase of spirituality, right? Like before that, you were just, like in a daily routine, and then suddenly you're like, wow, it's as if a whole veil goes away from your eyes and you see, and it's very exciting. We even have a hadith from the Prophet that it says that every single person, at least for once, will experience that. Either they will earn it, or as a tester, it will be given to them, so they will see that there's more to this world than the eyes see, so then they will start working for it. Ala inna fi ayyami dahrikum nafahat. Right? So a lot of the times we talk about this part of spirituality, that you get up and you realize, oh my God, there's more to this world. There are pleasures which are a million times nicer than the things I've been looking for. This unconditional love of God in my heart. This feeling that, wow, finally feeling like I'm enough, because that's a lot of problem we have, right? Even if you're the best at what you do and no one is free from this, you still feel like, oh, am I good enough? Maybe I should read 10 more books, then I'll be good enough. If you're a speaker, maybe I need to give 10 more lectures, then I'll be good enough. If you're a student, maybe if I get a job. So in that honeymoon phase, all of these things go away. You suddenly feel connected to God. You feel like, wow. But the problem comes after that. After the honeymoon phase, when you realize that you can live life in a different way. You can live life in a way in which when people say something rude to you, it doesn't it doesn't offend you. Like, you don't have to think about it for 2 hours. If you're driving and someone just comes in front of you, you don't need to keep, in your mind having a fight with that person. Like, why are you even driving? You need to ride a donkey, or these things that people say, So you realize that there's a different way of living. But the problem is this. The problem at this point is that you see, oh, I don't have it. There's something that stops me from having that kind of life, right? There is something which is not allowing me to always feel like I'm good enough. There's something in me which stops me from having that connection with God, with Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Because we know that the world is created by the kind and merciful, by love and mercy of God, whereas we don't feel that in our life. So then the question becomes, why? And the answer is often it's us. Oh, is the connection lost? I'm getting a few comments. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it just went off, I think. But I think, it seems like people are not hearing us.
Should I go and come back again?
No, it's back.
Back.
It's back again, yes.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, so I'm sorry for the disruption. So what I was saying...
Yes, I think if it's good, maybe you repeat it, because I think we missed it a bit because of the...
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. I apologize, by the way, for my voice that it was gone. It was not my fault. I'm so sorry. So what I was saying...
Yes.
What I was saying is this, that after the honeymoon phase in spirituality, which we said was that you realize that there's a different way of living, a way in which you feel good enough, you feel worthy, you've got a good connection with God at heart. You don't need to be with people to seek for love, because you have that love inside yourself from God. But even when you're with people, you're there to share it with them, share your love. You're no longer dependent on them. You're no longer needy. So you've experienced that for a short time. Then you see, oh my God, I don't have it every day. What is stopping me from having that? And you realize, oh my God, it's myself. I am stopping myself from having that kind of spiritual life. And then you start to, at that point, coming a little bit back and seeing what's happening inside you. Because inside us, it's a whole world, right? You start to see certain things. One of the things, for example, we see, and for those who have joined us, I'm talking about self-knowledge. One of the things we start seeing in ourselves is that, oh my God, I have a lot of patterns. A lot of the times I thought I am the one making decisions, but I am not. In fact, there are certain patterns I've created that I just keep falling into. And let me mention that these patterns could be simple things. Like, you know what? As soon as I hear bad news, I go on my bed, I lie down. Right? And then even when I don't want, this is just what keeps happening. So part of self-knowledge is you realize these patterns that are governing our behavior. And they were built, a long time ago, probably a lot of them in our childhood, some of them later on. Another thing we may realize about ourselves, oh my God, I have a certain way of reacting to when someone breaks my heart, or when someone is rude to me. Like, for example, it seems like every time someone upsets me, I just withdraw. I go to myself. Okay? And, I just want to wait a little bit to make sure the connection is there.
Slow. So, I think you're back, Sheikh. Yeah, the internet is a bit...
We're back?
Lost again. But I think you're back again.
Yeah.
Just
yes.
I think one remark. I think for everyone, they don't have to worry, because we're gonna, inshallah, the whole podcast will be on Spotify and also on Apple Podcast, so in very high quality sound, so you can re-listen it if you have lost a bit of the talk. So don't worry, we'll put it on Apple Podcast and inshallah also on Spotify on our channel. So I think you're back now, so you can continue your talk.
Yes. It's very interesting. This question seems to be very naughty. The Instagram doesn't want us to talk about this, but it's okay. I'll try to finish it quickly. So so one of the things that this self-knowledge is very important. And I was just saying that inside us, there's a whole world. One of the things, for example, we start realizing about ourselves is that we have these patterns that we keep falling onto. And when we are acting according to a pattern, we are not actually living, right? It's basically like we're on autopilot. It's we are not conscious, right? Another thing that we'll realize inside ourselves is we have an encounter with our fears. We have an encounter with our self-doubt. We have an encounter in ways in which we stop ourselves from living, right? And a lot, like each one of these we can talk about in more details, but because I want us to move to the next question, I'll just say that this whole idea of self-knowledge is that you realize within you there's a whole world. And not everything that happens is actually your decision. Parts of it are patterns, parts of it are fears, parts of it are self-doubt. Another thing, you even realize that I'm not even all the thoughts that are in my head. So you're like, part of this whole self-knowledge is that there are thoughts that come to my mind that I am not the source of, even though they appear to be using my pronoun. So in my head, it says, for example, I should do this, or I am not good enough, whereas I am not the source of it. So it's like this whole journey of, okay, what is the source of this? And why do I behave the way I do? And it's very interesting. So like, it's a whole journey. And unfortunately, this is the hardest part of spirituality. Like, this is what usually stops us from completing our journey, because it's not easy. And also because there's so little about it that we have said. But although I'll stop here, maybe we can talk about it later on.
No, I think it's very interesting what you're also talking about. But I was also reading online, and I saw a very nice article which was written by your father, Sheikh Muhammad.
Yes.
And there was something very interesting in what he was saying is like about this kind of self-knowledge, which we see is like in some of the people is like, you will see that this self-knowledge, we lose it when we are alone. Like when you sit alone and when you have the time to think about yourself, at that moment you will feel these feelings what you're like talking about, that you will have like these kind of doubts that should I do this, shouldn't I do this, and this kind of self-knowledge, which I think will come, like will get its kind of power and feeling. You will feel it more when you're alone. So I think many people also during this pandemic have felt this kind of feeling about, okay, who am I? Why am I doing this kind of stuff? Which I think is also like, but the question would also be for some of the people, which is okay, is there a way for me to kind of deal with it? How can I how can I get control actually over myself and become better in who I am? Is there a way to control it? Is there a way
Yes, absolutely. There are loads of ways. So I think, yeah, it's very important. Being alone certainly helps us because, well, our mind is very interesting, right? Our mind creates thoughts of whatever is around us. So when other people are around us, a lot of our mental CPU is basically spent on them, right? So that's why when we're alone, there's not distraction and we can't go inside. Although, even when we're inside, even when we are alone, it doesn't mean that we are thinking about ourselves, right? So being alone does not equal self-knowledge. Being alone is one of the things required for self-knowledge, right? Because you could be alone, most people are before they want to sleep, but they don't have access to the self. They have access to thoughts, which, as I said, not the source of all our thoughts are ourselves. So you could be alone, which most of us are before we want to sleep, but you could be thinking about what you want to do tomorrow. You could be thinking about the bad things that happened today, or for example. So again, that is not self-knowledge. Like just being alone won't lead to self-knowledge. So that's why I said it's very important for us to realize which thoughts are from us, which ones are not. Just to know that not everything that comes to our head is us. Right? In fact, initially, perhaps one of the best thing we can do is to just go beyond our thoughts, because the source of much of our thoughts are not deep enough to go to the core of who we are.
We have back on. We have back online. I think this is one of the struggles of 2020, the internet connection. But I think
I love it. One of the comments is beautiful. It says it's like our connection with God, going and leaving.
Exactly.
Going and coming. So actually, I think this is a good example for us to think about it. So when I'm saying that a lot of our thoughts is not us, right? There could be a lot of other sources for our thoughts. And so perhaps I said in initial stages of self-knowledge, one of the things is even to go beyond thoughts and to go deeper. So if I want to give practical ways that we can do this, one of them is trying to look for actually the time in which we are annoyed with something. Okay, these are very important times. Like one of them, like now, if this happens and we get all angry and frustrated and all of that, it's one of the best times for self-knowledge. You know, it's great. It gives us an opportunity for us to say, okay, why am I so affected by this? Let me see if I can observe what's happening, right? If you take a step back and you watch what's happening, and this slowly helps us, you know, this practice of being able to distance ourselves from what's happening and from a distance watch it. So actually they say that annoyances, anything that annoys us, is actually an opportunity for spiritual growth, because it means that probably there's something inside us that needs some work. Right? Why did I get upset with this? Inshallah, maybe we can talk about this more. I don't mind thought is a little bit, I've lost the train of thought. So let's go to the next question.
We will go, inshallah, we will go to the next question. But I think the message, I think it's quite clear. I think to go to the main question, and that is, of course, what is the real or good relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I think if you talk to many of the youth, you know, many times you hear that if you ask them what kind of relationship do you have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some of them may say like it's a friendship. It's like the relationship between me and Allah is a friendship. For some others it's like a father-son relationship. Yeah. For others it's maybe like doing business with Allah. Like you're worshipping him to get like something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think a question which comes in mind is like, is there a wrong relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Like, can I have even a wrong relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And what if there is something which is wrong or right, what is then the right relationship which we should have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And actually, He is our creator.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a very important question and point. I think, as you said, unfortunately, there are Well, I mean, the first part doesn't have an unfortunately. There are so many ways of relating to God. Some of them have unfortunately before them. A lot of the people, my dear brother, you must have probably heard this as well. A lot of people message us and they say, yes, as a result of a relationship with God, we are going through a lot of anxiety and stress, right? And I think the reason behind is that a lot of people, nice people with good intentions, who wanted to teach us about religion, they used fear, right? Good intention, but bad method. So they instilled an image of God which not only doesn't match our religion, not match the du'as of our Ahlalbait of Quran, but a lot of people think of God as this thing that they have to worship and pray, and if they don't, he's going to punish them. So unfortunately, this is one type of relationship a lot of people have. And other people, as you said, yes, it's a business for them. And I think this is perhaps the majority, right? So we're coming to the ceremony. Why? It has a thawab. On the night of Qadr, on these most important nights, like on the layali of Qadr, we don't care whether we change or not, whether we go closer to God or not. We're like, which a'mals have more thawab, right? And even though this is so obviously not the best thing to do, but it seems like many of us fall victim into this. Everyone sends a list of a'mal. So first you do this, then you do that, then you do this, then you do that. Then if you are still awake, make sure to do this, right? And if someone asks why do you want to do all of this? Well, it has sabab. It has sabab. So as he said, it's clearly a transaction. And the only victim of this kind of relationship is us, because we don't get to enjoy God. We don't get to, change. So I think the best kind of relationship with God has been explained to us in the du'as of our Ahlalbait. I'm speaking about munajat khamsa ashar. I'm speaking about dua arafeh. You see in these kind of du'as, there's first of all, a relationship which has love in it, right? It's not a relationship based on fear. It's a relationship based on love of God. It's a relationship in which the person doesn't feel ashamed or judged to go to God and express his or her own shortcomings. Right? A lot of the times we feel like we have to be perfect to go towards God. Whereas when you look at the ad'iyah, you see that's not the case. In fact, munajat khamsa ashar starts with what? Allahumma inni ashku ilayka nafsan bis-su'i amara. Right?
Yes.
It means, go God, I complain to you. Complain of what? Of the part of me which makes me do things I don't want to do. Right? So it means that the person has such a connection, such a relationship with God, in which they feel so comfortable, so easy to go to God, share their shortcomings, mention their mistakes, and then ask God to help them. So it's practical, it's focused on change, it's based on love, and so any of these qualities that we lack, we're going to suffer. If it's not based on love, what will happen is that it's going to create a lot of anxiety in us. And it's just not true. Because God introduces himself as Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. In Dua Arafeh, I really, if anyone hasn't read Dua Arafeh, I really beg of them to read Dua Arafeh, the first few pages. Forget about the rest. Just read the first few pages in which Imam Hussein introduces God. Imam Hussein says, God, you were the one who loved me before I was even born. Right? وَفِيهِ أَنْشَأْتَنِي وَمِنْ قَبْلِ ذَلِكَ رَأُفْتَ بِي. Right? You brought me into this world, and before that, you had love and affection for me. Right? Or in another verse, it says that you showed love to me. وَلَمْ أَكُنْ شَيْئًا مَذْكُورًا. I didn't even have a name when you loved me. Right? Which means that God's love for us has nothing to do with our own actions. it's not that God will love us more for our own if we commit good or bad. In fact, Imam Hussein alayhi salam says this later in Dua Arafah. It says that the reason God tells us to have good actions, to live well, is not so that he would love us more, is so that the blockages would go away, we could feel that love more, right? Which means that God's love, God's unconditional love is always there. If we live better, then we get to feel it. And, or for example, Imam Hussein says that, Ya man usiya fasatar. When I make mistakes, not only you don't get upset with me, but you try to hide it so others don't see and judge me. Or for example, Imam Hussein says that it was you who actually made my parents love me when I was a little kid. You made me cute, so my caretakers would love. So I think it's very important for us, before starting our spiritual journey, to have a very good understanding of God. And I think the best place for this is on Ad'iyah. And I particularly recommend, for example, Munajat Khamsa Ashar, Dua Arafah, Aminullah. These are best ways for us to see what kind of relationships our Imams had with God.
I think it's very interesting also what you say, and I think it's quite funny also that if you look to our life, is like how many times do we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, like in our prayers, at least 5 times, 5 times a day. And it's funny because if you see the translation of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it consists of the most merciful. So it's actually that God is actually, so we actually are saying every day that God is the most merciful, that He's the one, that He's the one that He loves me unconditionally. So whatever happens, like He will love me, He won't push me away. And I think that's a very beautiful concept of this love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that He will never leave you alone. And I think it's also very beautiful that if you look also to how Amir al-Mu'mineen like lived his life and how he actually saw God. Like if you see like one of his beautiful sayings, which I found very beautiful, is that if you look to Amir al-Mu'mineen, he has a very beautiful saying where he says like, I love to sit more in the mosque than is sitting in the paradise. And he would ask why, because the paradise is of course something which no eye has ever seen. So Amir al-Mu'mineen says like, because sitting in the paradise there's satisfaction for myself, but when I'm in the mosque there's satisfaction for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's very beautiful that Amir al-Mu'mineen actually sees this love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he understands that if I do dua, I will receive his love. And I think what was very beautiful what you said is like, when you understand this love and when you do dua, you actually move away these kind of barriers that you have right away. Feel this warmth and feel this beautiful love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which actually will make you understand this relationship with Allah much better. To actually go further on, but I want to make one last comment. I think if people watching us who have questions, I think put them in the comment. Inshallah, we will have at the end around, I think, 15 minutes to answer your questions. Just put them in the comments and we will inshallah try to answer them. We hope that I think we have enough time. Inshallah, we will be able to answer all the questions. To go actually to the next very important question is that if I have a good relationship, and of course life is not always going up. There will always be obstacles in my life which will create this kind of distance between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are many obstacles in life. Can you maybe tell us more about what kind of obstacles or habits maybe even that we have in our lifestyle this can distance us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or even make our relationship become less strong? Yeah,
sure. Can I just so I just before can you tell me like what some of the obstacles you had in mind, like you're talking about, or
I think
yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably like if I see, like I've talked to many of the youth, and one of the things you often hear is that, for example, if they are looking for a job or when they are studying and they have like a big problem, or for example they want to pass an exam, because if they don't pass they their studies will delay, and they go and talk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and sometimes he doesn't, in their opinion, he doesn't respond, or maybe even like getting distracted by this modern in the modern life. Every year there are new innovations, and you get very fast distracted of all these new stuff which come up. So you feel a bit distracted from actually getting closer to Allah. I think these kind of problems many of us have.
Yes. So I totally understand and get you. I think part of the reason, I think, is because of the again, I think goes back to the wrong way in which they've taught us about religion, and still we haven't been recovering from this, right? Just a few days ago, I was checking Instagram, as you usually do, and there was a post that said that the 7 benefits of astaghfirullah. I don't know, a lot of people may have seen this. It had a lot of likes and views. The 7 benefits of astaghfirullah. Like, one of them is that God will give you rizq, God will forgive you, you'll get children, you'll get this, you'll get that. And I was there waiting, wow. Like, I was looking at this, I was like, it's this kind of good intention, but simple-minded preaching of religion that creates expectations in people's mind that, for example, okay, God is a wish granter. I go there, I say one astaghfirullah, God gives me rizq. Or I give astaghfirullah, God gives me children. Or I pray. So that's, I think, a whole, misguided understanding of religion. The way I see God and God's impact in our life is that life is tough, right? And definitely, for as long as we're in this world, there's going to be a fair bit of suffering for all of us, right? And we don't know what's going on in other people's lives. We don't know. But a lot of the times, if you actually go and talk to them, you'll see that every person has kind of difficulties that are, backbreaking. Everyone is going through this, either themselves or their loved ones. There are very few people who get to go through life trouble-free. So difficulties are there. And I think our relationship with God is not the thing that removes all troubles. It's the thing that gives us the strength to go through sufferings with 2 things. First of all, without any added suffering, because a lot of the times we have a difficulty, and then on top of that, we have anxieties, fears, and worries, right? That what they call the negative suffering. And a lot of the times, this is what actually makes it much more difficult. So I think a relationship with God, the way it helps us is that it doesn't necessarily make life easier, it makes us stronger, right? And it helps us to reach to a place where no matter what's happening externally, it doesn't affect our internal peace, right? Because as I said, we were discussing this a little bit in the first part, that that is one of the reasons we need spirituality, is that we're looking for peace outside. We're trying to change the external factors in a way that would create the ultimate amount of happiness for us. If my house is like this, if my job is like this, if my husband is like this, my wife is like this, my children are like this, finally I will get to have some peace, right? And it doesn't work. One of the spiritual teachers were saying our method never works. That's why we keep searching our whole life for peace. We don't get there, and then when someone dies, we're like, rest in peace, right? In other words, maybe at least after you die, you'll get some peace. The reason for that is that we're expecting the external things to bring us peace. Whereas spirituality tells us, turn that around, right? Instead of looking for peace outside, instead of trying to make your life easier, make yourself stronger, right? And that obviously comes through finding our true self, finding our relationship with God. And then we'll see that, okay, any opportunity, anything actually, any difficulty actually becomes an opportunity for us to see, hang on a second, in what ways am I blocked to feeling God's love, right? So now, even in psychology, trauma psychology, one of the things that they recommend to people is that do not shy away from pain. Don't avoid your pain, right? Many of us, we have found what, we are self-medicating, right? We feel pain, we feel the void of life, we feel the difficulties, and we try to avoid it through different things. Some people through their jobs, they become workaholics. Some people go towards drugs. Some people towards relationships. Some people towards friends, become clingy to friends, right? There's something inside, we don't want to feel it. We keep clinging on to so many different things. Whereas now they're saying, sit with the pain and try and see what is it that it's trying to teach you, right? And the interesting thing is this, when you sit with your pain, you realize, oh my God, there is a blockage in you that is stopping you from experiencing that peace, that unconditional love of God. And now you have the opportunity to go and remove it. And I'll just, if it's okay, if we have time, I would like to give an example to show what do I mean. Because sitting with your pain, someone may feel like, okay, you have to sit with Sheikh Javad. What do you mean sit with pain? So what I mean by that, let me give an example. There could be a person who's very anxious, have a lot of anxiety, and this is stopping them from living their life. Unfortunately, the first reaction a lot of times we have is, how can I get rid of this anxiety? Okay, either I'll distract myself or I'll go get a pill. But now a lot of therapists would say, try and think, what is the cause of this anxiety, right? Think of it as, imagine it's a good thing. Imagine it had a purpose. What would its purpose be? So don't look at it as an enemy. Look at it as something that was trying to save you. Okay, what would the function be? Now, when you look at it like this, I'll say about a real example. One of the people who did this, they realized that, okay, I'm getting a lot of anxiety because I'm putting so much pressure on myself. I keep expecting myself to be perfect. So as soon as I feel like I'm not perfect in my job, my relationship doesn't look perfect, I get anxiety. Okay, let's go deeper. Why do I put pressure on myself? When did I learn to expect myself to be perfect? Now, it could be, for example, that, you know what, when you were a kid, the people around you, your caretakers, let's say your parents, gave you a signal that we only love you if you do well. Like, for example, you got good grades in school, they were like, well done, well done. One day you made a mistake or you got a low grade, they didn't show the same love. So inside you formed the belief that I have to be perfect in order to be loved. And now this belief that you formed years ago, even though you've forgotten it, you carry this with yourself. It makes you expect yourself to be perfect. And because perfection is impossible in this world, it means that endless, perpetual anxiety. Right? So something which can bring the quality of our daily life. Whereas the way to deal with this would be to sit within that anxiety and try to learn from that anxiety. What are you trying to protect in me? What is the function of you? And often you'll see, oh my God, I have this wrong belief about the world that I formed when I was a child. And you know how you were saying we read Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? We all say this, that this world has a creator that is loving and merciful. But if you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in your mind, but as a child you form the belief that love only comes when I'm perfect, this belief will cancel the Bismillah. So even if we say Bismillah, this belief in our, this implicit memory we have will cancel the Bismillah. Bismillah will mean nothing in us. So when we go deep down, we fix that issue, then we get to see Bismillah for the first time. So that's what I mean by sitting with the pain. And I think that was such a long answer to that question.
No, it was a very clear and actually very beautiful answer. So actually, if we like make a summary out of it, it's like,
yeah,
in a short way, you can say that you have to look at stuff always in a positive way. Always see it as a lesson for you and what you can learn from it. But I think there are also some questions from the audience, and I think also a question which many of us have is like, should I also revise my relationship with Allah? Like, for example, when I'm 10 years old, I have maybe I see God as my father or my grandfather or someone who is higher than me. When I get older, when I become 16, when I get in my puberty, I have a different feeling with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When I'm in my 30s, which I am now, so it's already 1/3 or maybe one half of my life, you're in a different life, and you have seen many other things, and you have different experiences. And maybe even if you're 60 years, you have a lot of experience. You have like experience of 6 years. And there was also a question one of the audience who asked is like, should I revise my relationship with Allah? And is that important to do?
Yeah.
Or how do you look at it? Yeah.
Yeah. I think definitely it's an inevitable part of our spiritual journey, right? In fact, in our books of spirituality, they would even say that every time you grow a little bit, you realize that in a way we can say that you realize that the God you were worshipping till that point wasn't the real God, right? It's basically like the story of Prophet Ibrahim. You know how Prophet Ibrahim first said, okay, the moon is my Lord, then the sun is my Lord. The same is with us. As we grow, we start realizing that, oh my God, I used to have a limited understanding of God. So our understanding keeps growing, and hopefully we'll reach to a place where, in the Quran we have that no one's understanding of God is correct apart from the mukhlasin. Mukhlasin are who? The people that God purifies. So it means that for a long part of our way, we'll keep improving our understanding of God. We keep improving it till we reach a place where then God will come and purify us, and we will finally have the perfect understanding. But till that point, absolutely, it's very important for us. And I think inevitably it happens. Once a person starts their journey, they'll have to let go. Not just let go of their understanding of God, but a lot of the times they have to let go of themselves, parts of themselves that no longer serve the needs. So, but definitely, I think it's very important for us to do that.
I think also there are many questions from a lot of the audience. I think we have like one last question which I think we should answer today, and then we can go on to the questions of our viewers.
Sure.
I think it was a very interesting podcast because we have really a lot of questions. So I would say, Sheikh, prepare yourself for many questions.
I'm ready.
Okay, but I think the very last question to actually kind of end the talk with is like, of course we have like our biggest role models are the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his Ahlalbait.
Yes,
but not all, I think also a lot of stories of the prophets in the Holy Quran. Of course, they had some skills, but they also had some habits which they were able to create this good relationship with Allah, or they had maybe some advice. What kind of advice or skills do they advise us to have, or maybe to work on, to be able to have a better relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If you can tell us maybe.
Yeah, perfect. Sure. So I think one of the Although there are so many lessons because that we can drive from the prophets.
Exactly.
And actually in our series Revival of the Heart, that has been one of the things on Instagram, to try and go to these ahadith and explore the lesson. But I think the best lesson maybe, or the most important lesson that Ahlalbait have taught us and Prophet with regards to our relationship with God is that, like any other relationship, it requires time and communication for it to work, right? If you want to be close to your friend, to your partner, you need to communicate. And honest, real communication, right? Imagine, I don't know, like I come from a part of the world where before there was so much etiquette in the way, for example, children and their parents had to speak. So you could see people that would never even like, they would always feel shy to talk to their fathers, or there was a kind of aura around the fathers or grandfathers that you would never go and even talk about your feelings and all of that, right? And of course there's reason for it, but as a result of this, there was a lot of, perhaps you can say, emotional distance between the children and the parents. Right? The parents maybe never knew what's going on inside the child's heart, and the child didn't know what kind of worries or concerns does the father have. They loved each other, right? They would do anything for each other, but they just didn't talk. And as a result of this, their hearts just would never get close. The same is with God. We could love God all we want, we could pray, we could fast, read the Quran. But as long as we don't genuinely and in a real, authentic way, whatever is inside our heart, if we don't go and communicate that with God, we'll never get close. And I think this is one of the things that I love about the Ahlalbait. When you read the du'as, you see that it's as if they're telling us, allow nothing to stop you from talking to God. For example, we have a hadith which is mind-blowing. There's a hadith that says, turn, the moments when shaitan is tempting you to an opportunity to go towards God, right? It's very interesting. Like, even when you are in the middle of temptation, even when you feel like the desire to do something which you're even shy if your friends know what you're going to do, it says, even at that point, don't be shy to go and talk to God. Right? Okay, fair enough. Temptation came. You made the mistake. You did something that you don't want anyone in the world to know. Still, go and talk to God. Tell God about it. And that's one of the most powerful lessons we have in religion. Imam Sadiq says, God, عادته الإحسان إلى المسيئين. So God's habit is to forgive the people who make mistakes. Right? Go to God. And when you do this, when you speak to God about what matters to you, God, I feel lonely. God, I'm addicted. God, I feel like I'm dealing with, for example, this thing, I can't stop, right? Even if you haven't stopped it, it's fine. God, you know what? I want to stop this. I'm, for example, doing this thing. It's so nasty. I'm ashamed of myself. I can't stop, but I want to tell you about it, right? And the Imam tells us, go, talk. And slowly, through this communication, God's healing power works, right? God's healing power comes and works through us. And slowly, a relationship is based. And so that's one of the things I think which is very important. And in the Quran even we have that says, dhikr, do dhikr as much as you can. And unfortunately, sometimes we think dhikr means to say subhanallah. No, dhikr just means remember God in your heart. So I would say that, yes, just this remembering God, talking to God as if he's a friend, and reading these du'as. I think reading the meanings of these du'as is very beautiful. So I would say maybe that's the most important point of this talking. Honest, real. God, just sorry. Can I just say one more thing? Can I say one more thing, please?
Yes, of course.
One of the things, again, that we should tell God, we shall feel free to tell God, is when we are mad at God. Even if inside you feel mad at God or mad for what's happening in your life, go and complain to God. It's absolutely okay. And we even have Allahumma inni ashku bathi wa hudni ilayk, right? So this going to God to even complain is fine, right? Because God understands it's better than keeping it in. Don't feel like there should be any part of you that God is not ready to hear, right?
Exactly.
So even if you're mad at him, go and tell him, God, I'm mad at you. Or God, I don't love you, make me love you. Or God, honestly, all of these things we need to go and tell God, right? So that's why I should stop talking.
No, you can keep talking, Sheikh. I think it's a very beautiful how you actually explained it, and I think you cannot better explain it than how you did it. I think it's very beautiful how you say that it's actually about communication. And I think in many when you see like a lot of partners when they have difficulty, you see that most of these psychologists say like you have to communicate with each other, and that's exactly the same. What you have to communicate and you have to talk with God. And I think one of the issues that maybe many of the youth have is that when they do a sin, they think, yeah, how can I face God with this sin which I have done? And I think what you said was also very beautiful is don't be afraid, because he's merciful. He will forgive you no matter what you do. And I think the very most important thing is that if you are very pure with what you're saying and that you really have like you think that what you did is wrong, and you come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you talk with him in such a way, I think that's the most beautiful talk you will ever have. I think you cannot have a better and more beautiful talk, even more beautiful than if you have talk with your parents or with your even it's between a child and its father. And I think what is also very, very nice about this kind of talking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which I personally think it's very nice, is that it makes you humble. It makes you feel like you're depending on someone, because you know in the end that we all will die, and there's someone who will save you no matter what. It makes you feel like, I think the thing is that when you walk during the days outside, when you talk with people, and we have achievements in life, it's very fast that you feel this kind of you become so egocentric, like, oh, it's all because of my hard work. I did my best. That's why I got my PhD. That's why I got my job. And then when you go to Salah, it's so beautiful that when you raise your hands, you feel like, oh wait, I'm depending on someone. That's why I raise my hands. That's why I talk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It gives you this kind of humble feeling, which is very beautiful. And I think like one of the most beautiful ayahs also in the Holy Quran is huwa ma'akum aynama kuntum. He's with you wherever you are. So I think if we keep that in mind, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere with us, I think we can come very far.
Yeah, I love what you said. Yeah. I love what you said about humbleness and going to God. And in fact, brother, one of the things I feel like within this humbleness, it's such a freedom, because everywhere in life we feel like we have to prove ourselves, at work, at home. I have to be perfect. I have to be the perfect husband. I have to be the perfect friend. I have to be the perfect partner. But then when you go to God, especially as you said, after we've made a mistake, and we go to God, it's the most liberating feeling. You say, you know what, God, I'm not perfect.
Exactly.
I'm not perfect. I'm full of flaws. And the good thing is, I don't have to be perfect. And this is the most liberating feeling. I am with God, as you said, who's all the time with me and doesn't expect me to be perfect. Right? He's the only perfect one. Right? There's this beautiful line that we don't need to be perfect. All we need to do is to go to the one who's perfect, to God. Right? And there's so much freedom in this, that let go of this impossible mission of becoming perfect. And I love this point you mentioned about humbleness, so I just thought I'll say that.
I think it's time maybe to go to the question, because I think it's a very beautiful topic. We can probably talk for hours about it, and before we know, it's the morning. I will go try to go one by one. I hope it's quite a lot, but I hope we will manage to answer all the questions.
Inshallah.
There's a question from a brother, which he says like, in my life there are some people who have negative influence on my spirituality, especially when they are relatives, like some like parents-in-law or brother-in-law. how can I manage it, or should I remove them? What is the best way to deal with it because they have influence on my spirituality? What is your advice?
Yes, well, yeah. So thank you so much, brother, for your question. You know, this is one of the cases in which it's a little bit difficult to give a general answer because there are so many details that matter, like the specific of the questions. So we have to see what is the situation, what kind of toxic effect are they talking about? Could it be through communication dealt with? I think in all of situations, the first thing would be communication, right? And even communication has techniques, right? So it's very important how we communicate. I recommend the book Non-Violent Communication for people who want to talk about something important with someone. It's very important because communication is a technique. We could go to someone and tell them that we're upset with something and make the situation worse. Or we could go to someone, if we know how to say it, make the relationship even closer. So I would always say the first thing always is communication. If that didn't work out, the next step is just, how much is this harming me? If this is really harming me, then it has to be stopped. The relationship has to be stopped. You got to set boundaries, and you can inform the person. Okay, I don't have control over you, but I can inform you that if you keep behaving this way, I will have to maybe distance myself from you. But if communication didn't work and you can't cut them from your life, then there are practices of how to minimize the harm that they do. And I have spoken about this before in a series called Spiritual Healing. So I think they will get more information about it. It's on YouTube called Spiritual Healing. How to deal with issues like that. So the guy don't need to go to the details of that.
Yeah, of course. No, that's definitely. And I think there's another question from a sister, which she says like there are people which I have around me or I see who have dealt with a lot of negative influence, like, or negative stories, or probably someone who has beaten by his father and mother. So he has a very negative life. So how can I convince such a person to see the positive things in life and that God still loves him? It's a quite difficult question, but how can I help such a person who has a lot of negativity in his life?
Yeah. So I think if a person is in a situation like that, your job is not to tell them that God is loving, right? No. Your job is to, if you can, make their life easier. Now, this could be through different ways, right? And it's very important for us to know that there are certain times in our life where the priority is not what the person thinks or believes. The priority is to get them to a good place, right? So the person, maybe it would be very important for us, if we are friends with such a person, see how can we fix this, right? How can we stop the abuse? Can we get help from other people in community? If there's an elder in community, a scholar in the community, who can we get involved? How can we fix this situation? Because the first priority we have in a case like this, if there is abuse, is to end the abuse, right? So once we manage to end the abuse, then the person needs to heal. And a trauma like this takes time, okay? So the best thing, as I said, is always to be there. If you want to help this person, be there without any agenda, without any, I want them to feel this, or even if, for example, they end up swearing at the world, or I hate this world, or I hate, what is God? God is unfair. Let them say it. Let them say it. You don't need to change any of that, right? All of that will be fixed later. So you have to help them stop the abuse, and then you help them start the healing process. If they can on their own. If not, they need to seek professional help. There's nothing wrong with that. We have a lot of great trauma therapists that can help the person, heal from this trauma, because a trauma like that could be very much affecting our psyche or mental health. Then the person needs to heal it. Then slowly, they will find God after the whole healing process. And we have to know that, we don't need to rush people's process. Every person has a journey, has a process. Let's not rush them. Let's just be there for them with love, right? That's what our Ahlalbait did. They didn't rush anyone. They showed love, and so that the person can get to a place where they can see the love of this world. But for a person to be able to see the love and beauty of the world, first they have to heal themselves and their life from all the negative things which are happening there.
Thank you. I think there's another one which a sister asks, like we talked about talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she asks, can I also talk to the Prophet? Can I talk to Amir al-Mu'mineen? Or should I always talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Absolutely. As long as, because for us, everyone is, what is it? It's like a kind of, in Farsi, we call it a truly relationship. Like, we see all of this,
connected.
Ultimately, we love the Prophet because he connects us to God. So as long as we look at these beautiful, amazing figures as our way to connect to God, there's nothing wrong. In fact, for some people, initially it may be easier. But to get us close to God. But it's very good for us. So initially it's that easier, then definitely, why not? But I think it's very good for us to slowly work towards a kind of life in which we would be comfortable with speaking with God. Because ultimately that is the teaching of Ahlalbait and the Prophet, right? They're like a finger that's pointing to God. So initially, if it's easier to talk to them, then by all means. But slowly, we need to learn to create that direct line with God as well. Because all of their du'as, that's what they're teaching us. The direct talking with God.
I think we already went over 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
Which I think it's a very beautiful subject, and maybe inshallah we can continue this talk in a second podcast, maybe inshallah, because I think inshallah. we can keep talking about it, because I think it's a journey to Allah, and everyone wants to perfect his journey and his way and his relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, I would love to thank you a lot, because I have learned a lot from you. It was a very interesting podcast. Of course, we love your content on Instagram. We hope you will keep doing it. We hope that you can share a lot with your about these cartoons, and of course, this combination, which I personally really like, this combination between you and your wife, which makes it also very, very beautiful to see. And of course, the thing is about Instagram is that people always think that life is always beautiful on Instagram, but in real life we all have struggles. We all have to deal with struggles, and I would love to give actually the last word to you, and inshallah after that we can end up our podcast. So the last word,
sure,
it's for you, Sheikh.
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I just want to end with a story which is relevant. Very short story, by the way. Don't panic. Very short story. Very short story. And it's relevant to the question that they asked. And it's a real story, by the way. So there's a person who later on became a teacher himself, a religious scholar. So he says that when he was a child, his father dies. Very young he was. I don't remember now. Maybe 10, 11 years old. His father dies. And he goes through a very difficult time. His world is crushed. His relationship with God is affected. And so he says, on my way from home to school, after my dad died, one day I was walking to school. Then this person came, this religious scholar, told me, you know what, son, I'm actually going that way as well. Is it okay if I come with you? And he says, sure. And so he says that this religious scholar, that whole year, every day in the morning, would come to this 10-year-old kid who's just lost his father and say, okay, you know what, my work is that way too. Is it okay if I just walk with you? And on the way, he would listen to him, talk to him, not about God, nothing. Just how's your day? What is happening in school? Then he says, many years later, I realized that this scholar has died. So he said, I realized this scholar has died. I went back to our town to go and visit him. He says, when I went back, I realized, oh my God, his work was not close to my school. In fact, he was all the way in another part of the town. But every day for a whole year, he came and walked with this kid who had just lost his father so that he wouldn't be alone for at least half an hour every morning. Right? He didn't tell this kid that you have to believe in God. You have to love God. God is beautiful. There's a reason why your dad died. No, none of this. He just said house school. But just this love that he showed was the thing that convinced this kid later on to become a religious scholar himself and fixed his relationship with God. So a lot of the times we don't need to say anything. We don't even need to talk about God. All we need to do is to show people love, and that love will, will do its work. So thank you so much for having me, and inshallah talk to you or see you with another opportunity, and thanks to everyone for being with us.
Yes, thank you very much. I thank all the viewers, and again I thank you, Sheikh Javad. It was an honor for me to meet you, to know you, and to have a talk with you, because I think I've learned a lot, and inshallah we will see you soon. And one of the most important things, stay healthy and keep doing what you're doing, because we love it, and inshallah see you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Thank you. مع السلامة.
مع السلامة.